But on this particular night, when she got to the hallway, it's like she sensed unholiness. It's like she sensed something was awry in the atmosphere. I don't know what it was. For the boys out there who feel like they don't fit in anywhere, like you're not gay enough, but you're not straight enough, just know that I was with you the whole time. We were with each other the whole time.
Hey! We are the sheep of another fold, yeah!
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. By the title, y'all know what time it is. They got some tales coming, some stories coming, embarrassment coming, but it's all for the greater good, right? Today is October 11th, which is National Coming Out Day. I was debating about doing this video for probably most of the summer, and then I realized, why not? Like, this year, 2022, marks 10 years of me coming out of the closet. And so, you know, I thought about doing like a video where I tell my story, how that happened, both voluntarily and involuntarily, and also just kind of have like a little reflective moment with you all about 10 years being out of the closet. Side note, I'm somebody who believes that coming out isn't necessarily necessary, or at least I feel like it shouldn't be necessary. Like, there are spaces for individuals to come out, and it's great to have space for everybody, but I wish that space was just there and not necessarily needing to be made. But I would gladly take space being made than no space at all. So with that being said, I do wish that one day we get to a place to where like there is no coming out. You love who you love. You come home with who you want to come home. Or you have the relationships that are good to your heart, spirit, mind, and body. And if those relationships just happen to be of the same sex or gender or whatever, then as long as it's love. But with that being said, I do think that there are a lot of positive things about sharing your story. I know when I was younger, I used to go online for hours watching people's coming out stories, and I was like, I'm not doing that. Because why are you in my business? It just didn't seem like a necessity for me, although I appreciated it. Because when I was a kid, I made my resolve. I made my resolve to just, do my thing until my thing got tired. I don't know. But as a 34-year-old man, yes, that means I came out at 24. I came out after college. With life, there's a lot of growth, and there's a lot of time to look back and see the things that have transpired in my story and what that looks like. And so I can say that it's been one hell of a ride, mostly with self. There were a lot less external factors more than there were internal factors. So this coming out story is going to be basically more centered on my self-evolution with my sexuality and what that looked like. It wasn't pretty sometimes. Sometimes it was lovely. But for a lot of the times it wasn't the best, sight. So with the spirit of believing that, we have power in our stories and we have power in connection with each other through sharing our stories and, finding pieces of each other within our stories, I think is what this life is really all about, and the main component. I feel like you can love deeper, when you share stories, because if anything, you can just be like, I can relate to that. I can feel what he's going through. As a little black gay boy from Texas by way of Louisiana, you can feel like you don't belong in a lot of spaces. Even though you're walking around making space for everybody else, you yourself can feel like you're just visiting. You're a guest all the time. And that's mainly because of the fear of lack, not being understood, not being seen. Although you really want to be seen, those kind of things kind of play within you, because if you don't have acceptance of yourself, you can't show that to anybody else. You know what I'm saying? And if you do, it's gonna come off strange, weird, different, and all these things. And if you're somebody who latches on to the agreements of what other people, feel about you, it can be kind of hard. See, for me as a child, I never really cared what other people thought about me, even as a teenager, as an adult. I cared about how I made people feel, which could look like me caring about what they think of me, but I just care about how I come off to you. When in actuality, I've learned that I didn't really need to do that either. We're going to get into all that. We're going to talk about that. And by the title, you know that there is an embarrassing story where I was outed by myself to my mother and my brother that I've never really told many people at all. So the fact that I'm putting it out there for the world is, I love y'all. I love people. And if my story can help shine light, give laughter, whatever the case may be is, then so be it, okay? But before we go into that, I want to say, if you're new to the channel, what's up? My name is Jacoby. Welcome to the Journal Vlogs. Here I do what I want. If you look back at my other videos, I talk about, random stuff, mindfulness things, about the self, about you, movie reviews, album reviews, show reviews, life, vlogs here and there when I feel like vlogging. So if you like what you see, feel free to go through the catalog and find something that you like. Hopefully there's something for everybody. If not, that's okay. But again, if you like what you see, feel free to stick around. Hit that bell notification, like, comment down below your thoughts. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're watching. Subscribe, you know what I mean? So that you can get more if you want to. This is only if you want to. Don't feel no pressure. All right, so let's see. Where should we start? I'm nervous. It's like I can feel the anticipation from somebody. I don't know. I was a weird kid. I was a different kid. I'm the youngest of really 7, but I grew up with 2 other people. My father had 3 children. My mother had 1. Together they had 3, which made a total of 7. The brother before me passed away, and then I came. So I was like the runt of the litter, the last of the last. I only grew up with 2 other siblings in my household, but I was the youngest of 3, I guess you would say, growing up. So my older sibling from my mother, they're also a part of the LGBT family. I have a transgendered sister. I was a weird kid. I was a different kid. I was a watcher. Like I watched a lot. Like I was an observer. I loved music. I love to play with friends outside. I love to be outside. I love to climb trees. I love to play at the park. I love to ride my bike. I was a normal kid in that aspect, but internally, I was different. Being an observer and being, I feel like, emotionally, intellectually elevated at a young age, not to toot my own horn, okay? But my emotional capacity was always very big. I just didn't know how to compartmentalize it or even express it verbally, but I felt a lot, always. Like I could always feel and see things that like most people really didn't see, although I thought that they did, which kind of made me retreat a lot in my childhood because I was like, y'all don't see how the world is? All right. Okay, well, I'm gonna just go back to my Butterfly album. I would enjoy times in my room where I would listen to music, gospel music. I grew up in Texas, in the Bible Belt. And in my early childhood, church wasn't like a 4 factor. It wasn't something that we did every day. We weren't super, devoted and stuff like that, although it came from our background. The majority of my extended family is Catholic, but my mom, and I want to say a few of her other siblings are Baptists, I want to say, or grew up Baptist. And so when we decided to go into church and start, try to find a church home, it was more so through the Baptist side. I had this love for music, okay? I had this love for people. I was quirky, but I also realized that I was different with my sexuality very, very, very early. And it wasn't because of how I felt, it was because of what was projected onto me by things that like I would hear, or that was either directly said to me or like about me, or I would hear said about something else. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well that's me. That's me too. I remember one memory that I have when I was in daycare with my older brother. Shout out to Kingdom Goose. Oh my God, I still can't believe I remember that. Kingdom Goose. I remember that was one of our daycares. And we were playing in the play area one day, and I remember there was this doll that I liked to play with, and it was like this doll in this white wedding dress. And I remember I was playing one day with it, and my older brother came to me and he hit it out of my hand and was like, "You don't play with that. That's for girls. I wanna play with it. Can I play with it?" That was like one time when I remember feeling, different. Not really gay, but just like, why can't I play with the doll? There were moments in my childhood, before the puberty kicked in where, people would often mistake me for my mother when they called the house. And it'd be mainly my brothers be like, "Oh, I thought you was mama, boy, put some bass in your voice." I'm like, I'm 8. Or like when we had PlayStation games and we would get like fighting games, my brother would always, get the Madden 2Ks, whatever came out, NBA Lives. And I would like get the Mortal Kombat games, and I would always pick like Katana or Sindel or, you know, or Chung Lee. Like that was, you know, I don't know if that was a gay boy thing, but it definitely was for me. I was developing this relationship with God. I loved gospel music. You know, some of my favorite music was gospel music. I would sit as a kid with my mom's old Mahalia Jackson gospel tapes at like, you know, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old and be singing my heart out to
the upper room,
as if I'm about to just bury somebody. That was me. I don't know. I was weird. I was a weird kid. I loved to sing. Singing was something that I did all the time, and a lot of it. I got that from my mother. My mother was the same way. She grew up singing all the time, everything. And now when we get together, like one of our bonding moments is like just singing karaoke in the living room. And that's something that I love. But for me, it wasn't very apparent to others or for me that I might have been gay because I wasn't, my older sibling, you know, was very feminine. I didn't relate to that because I wasn't a girl. You know, I knew that was a boy and I knew that I liked, you know, boy stuff. Well, minus like the regular boy stuff. I didn't care for football, basketball. I could play and I was good at it, but I'd rather not. Growing up, I had my options. I had my little girlfriends here and there, little elementary play yard type stuff. But every once in a while, I would get like a guy friend that I would have like a little crush on. Very few times. One in particular was, I'll say his name because I haven't seen this kid in almost 30 years. I gotta rephrase that. We were really young. We were like in elementary school, and his name was Francisco. And I remember we used to go over to each other's house for dinner. We were classmates, but I remember I thought that he was like so cute. And I didn't realize that I thought he was cute. I just remember like fancying his face. Greenish eyes, kinda almondy skin, cute little smile. Like I remember having like a crush on him, but not knowing that that's what it was. Cause I low-key like was more drawn to that than my little girlfriend. And we would go over to each other's house. We would have like sleepovers, and bless his heart, his mama couldn't cook. No, his mama, I can't say that. I shouldn't say that. I just remember that it was different from the way that my mother cooked. We'll say that, okay? So like I knew that as a boy, being too feminine wasn't good. Even though I knew that I had feminine tendencies, I knew that it wasn't necessarily good as a boy to have those things. I was just a sensitive kid, but like soft-spoken, but like loud at the same time. I was just me, you know? But I knew that there were aspects of myself that would be seen harshly or in ways that I shouldn't be. Once I figured out that a lot of other kids either didn't have those feelings or they didn't express it. And again, looking back, I'll be like, yeah, you were gay. It's totally normal for prepubescent boys to be mimicking the high notes of emotions by Mariah Carey. That's normal, right? Yeah, because I could do it. Not no more, but at one point in time, I could get with it. There's actual cassette tape somewhere on this planet of me hitting those whistle notes on key. Thank you very much. I've always been really good at integrating my masculinity and my femininity, even though sometimes I would try to put down my femininity just because sometimes it came out too much for the people. I remember this one time in high school when I played football for like a day. We were doing weight training, or I was with my brother while he was weight training, and the song of the summer was Loverboy by Mariah Carey, and everybody knew that I love Mariah Carey. It is what it is. To this day, I'm still a lamb. I got much respect and honor for that woman's work through my childhood. But anyways, we were in the weight room, and Loverboy came on, and I remember like my face lit up when I looked at my brother, and he was across the gym, and he was like, you better not. If I didn't start performing behind the rest of the football players back, nobody saw. I did it very inconspicuously. Another funny story was that when I was about 8 years old. No, how old was I? I was 11, and it was Christmas time, and Mariah Carey's Rainbow had came out. And I remember I wanted the album. I was going to buy it myself, but my mom kept like, no, don't buy it. I was like, I don't want to wait till Christmas. You know, I knew she was trying to probably allude to me getting it for Christmas, but I didn't want to wait that long. And so, long story short, about, a week before Christmas, I saw that Santa had that there was a CD-shaped gift under the tree, and it was labeled to me. And I remember like getting super excited because like I knew what it was. Like, what else could it be? Christmas morning comes around and we get ready to open the presents, and I'm all excited. I grabbed the present. It's from my brother, my older brother. And I remember that when it got time to open it, I grabbed it and I ripped it open. And as I ripped it, I saw like, I don't know, it was like Madden 2K or NBA Live or something with sports. And literally like my whole body dropped. And I was like, first of all, I felt unseen, okay? And I felt abandoned. No. So even still with a smile on my face, I was like, okay, thank you for the game, brother. And he was like, well, go ahead and open it now. Look at the disc. Look how shiny it is. And I was like, I don't need to, but whatever. I go to open the disc, and lo and behold, it was the Rainbow CD. Yep. And I was so happy. I went from utter shatteredness to pure joy in just a matter of about 4 seconds. And I'm not saying that, the arts and music and, knowing every lyric to every Mariah Carey, Whitney, Anita Baker album is foretelling to a little gay boy, but it could be a foreshadowing moment, and it was for me. So about junior high, freshman year of high school, when the hormones start to come in, things change, okay? Things changed drastically. I remember feeling like, okay, I was like, I have more boy crushes. I pay more attention to the dudes more than anything. And I remember, but at the same time, it was like in the back of my psyche, like it was never anything that I investigated. It was never anything that I inspected. It was just something that I kind of knew. I didn't want to look at it, Why? Because God and the world and people said that was wrong. It wasn't so much the world saying that homosexuality was wrong. It was that I believed in my faith at the time that God said it was wrong. And then that also made me just not want to be gay. Like I didn't want to be gay, like I didn't have a desire to seek it out. I didn't want to even tap into it. Like I didn't want it. And so a lot of people were like, well, just be gay and just be who you are. But it's different when you want to be accepted, but when you don't even want it, you don't really claim for that acceptance, because I never really aimed for acceptance. I just aimed to be me and myself, me. I didn't want to be gay. I didn't. Now it's totally different, obviously. But as a preteen and growing up, I didn't want to agree with that part of me. And I did almost anything that I could to disagree with that part of me. Until one day, I got a hold to a 7-hour flick from a gas station. I looked old enough to buy it, I guess. I don't know. I went from looking like 6 years old to like 19. I was able to get my hands on this 7-hour flick that showed only male performers. My heart started beating fast of excitement. I was like, oh my God. Whatever I was gonna see, I was excited to see. And so here leads into the story of how I outed myself. So that night, I waited till I thought everybody was asleep, and I decided to go for the marathon. I was like, I'm gonna watch this 7 hours. Granted, I had school the next day, right? What was I thinking? Like, what was I gonna do? Watching 7 hours of smut, of male smut. But I was up for the challenge, and I thought everybody was asleep. And I remember I had it to a science, right? So my bedroom in that particular house was right by the front door, which we never really used. We always used the back door. But when you transition from the living room to the hallway to get by the rooms, like there was like a little creaking noise that would happen. So I remember that I had to keep my volume between 12 and 15. Okay. And if I went any bit over 15 on the peak parts of the audio, I could not hear the creak. I knew that there was a chance that I wouldn't hear anybody coming, but also it was too low for me to also hear anything as well, which is kind of suspicious. Like if you see the light from the TV on, but you don't hear no TV, what you in there watching? I knew it was just, I had it down to a science. But I also knew that if I had it too low and it's too late, I could realize that I could lose sensory, right? Especially audio sensory, and I could end up falling asleep. I think we know where this is going. My goal was to make it through the 7 hours. It was a lot of fast forwarding, so it was only like 3 hours, really, you know what I mean? But I went too low on the volume. So picture it. Okay, late night, early morning, mom's just finished her late shower, Estee Laudered up, shower, powdered up, with the sweet mellow sounds of Yolanda Adams in the background. okay, getting ready to do her walk. Bob bless oil on the house, making sure all the perimeters was secure and safe. Electronic usage, all electronic usage that results in a utility bill being too high was off. And she thought she was coming around to do her normal nightly routine. Check the house, secure the perimeters, read her little word, and then go to bed. But baby was wrong. Baby would soon make a discovery. She was wrong. I think you know where this is going. Stay with me. Matter of fact, she should have been asleep. She had no business being up that late. I waited purposely to where she should have been asleep. Anyway, at some point she got to the other side of the house, and I guess she saw the light from my room, which she's seen many a nights. Like my mom would come and turn my TV off all the time. Like it wasn't a not normal thing. She'd be like, boys, turn your TV off, but she knew that we would fall asleep with it on, and so she would often come in and, turn it off for us. But on this particular night, when she got to the hallway, it's like she sensed unholiness. It's like she sensed something was awry in the atmosphere. I don't know what it was, I don't know what it was, but I guess she just sensed it. And I know as she approached my room, she probably thought that she would catch me sleeping with, a reruns of Rugrats or Mama's Family or South Park on the TV. But on this particular night, and I wasn't awake for this moment, I could only imagine what she felt when she saw what was actually on the screen of my TV. And I just remember I couldn't even imagine probably what she thought, when she walked in, but I know she was shook because she didn't even wake me up. Like it was almost like she was thrown off of her karate chop, game when she saw that it was male on male. And not long after that, my middle brother walks in, and as he's coming in, she kind of confronts him and was like, did you know about this? And da-da-da-da. And mind you, I'm still asleep, right? At this point, I have no idea that this is going on. I'm still asleep. And so she pulls him into the room and shows him what's on the TV. And he's like, I knew it. I knew it. I had a feeling. No, I don't know. I don't know what his reaction was besides like probably astonishment as well. But then their whispering kind of got louder and louder. And I'm like a heavy light sleeper. So the whispering plus the TV, eventually woke me up. And I woke up, I opened my eyes, and I saw my brother and my mother in my room, in my doorway, like whispering, arguing with each other. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? And like before I could finish that thought, my peripheral saw my TV, and it was as if time shot out of my nostrils, my ears, my stomach, my heart stopped, my brain melted. Fear and utter, I can't even describe, like it took me some years after this happened to kind of, describe what was going on or what I was feeling. But it was literally like the combination of every worst emotion, mainly like just scared for my life and embarrassment. Like, and then I just looked at my mom, I looked at the TV, she looked at me, they looked at me, and all she could say was, is this why you wanted to go off to college? And like stormed away and like went back into her room. And my brother just kind of stood there, looked at me, was just like, and just kind of disappeared down the hallway. And I was mortified. Doesn't even begin to explain it. Mortified doesn't even begin to explain what I felt like. If there was a baby angel cherub that was like, hey, if you want to go and exit life, I would have went. Like I was so shook. Now we can laugh about it. Now we can joke about it. But at the time, it was not anything that it was probably at that moment, the worst moment of my life, hands down. If I could have chosen at the time, I probably would have. High key. I did not go to school that day, obviously. I felt pushed out of the closet, right? And it was all of my doing. I remember being so angry at God. Like that was like my first or probably my third emotion was like, how could you? He was the only person who knew about my sexuality. And I was going to hopefully keep it like that, at least for another, 5 years. At the time, I was probably about 14 or 15 years old. I felt betrayed by God. Ain't that crazy? Like, no, he didn't tell me to put it in. No, yes, we have free will. Yes, we have all these things, but he allowed it to happen. He couldn't, like, I don't know, make the plug unplug by itself or turn the channel for me. He could have done something. And I felt so betrayed. Which put distance between my relationship with God as well as my family. Because from then on, I felt seen in a way that I wanted to be seen, but not in that way, and also not then. And because when you're seen like in a way where it's uncomfortable, it could really begin this world of like detachment and almost like this fear, because it's like you lose control of how your family sees you when you don't want to be seen. Because mind you, like I'm trying to work this out. You know, I'm hoping to eventually get married, get some kids, and do my thing. They caught me during this experimental phase that was supposed to be just for me. It turned out to be the biggest blessing later on, because that was the way that things were supposed to happen. And so I outed myself at 15 years old. But what it did was it just pushed me further deep into the closet. The conversations that ensued after were just like, so are you? I was like, no. And so I was like, y'all just so happened at that moment to walk in on a gay scene. And my brother didn't believe it. My mom didn't want to hear it. And she was just like, okay, well, are you gay? And I was just like, no. I was like, forget that ever happened. Forget it out of your mind. It was just an experiment. Don't worry about it. And they were like, okay, all right. Are you sure? And I was like, yes. Okay, stop asking me. Push me through this prolonged period. I went further into the closet because I was like, no, we're not about to do this. I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready. So through the rest of, school, we get into high school. I'm still in the closet. Again, I play football for like, I don't know, a few hours. No, for like, I want to say like maybe like half a season I played, but I hated it. It was just kind of miserable. It was miserable. I became depressed because I knew that like my family saw me a certain way that I didn't want them to see, and I couldn't change that. You know what I mean? Like I couldn't change that situation to bring back who I wanted to show them. My early teenage years to middle teenage years were pretty much kind of filled with internal misery. That was when my deep sadness kind of started, because I was also dealing with my faith, right? I was also struggling in that aspect because, again, I don't really care what the world says about me. At the time, I only thought about what God said about me. And I was too busy channeling who I thought he was and what he had for me through the realms of the church and through the world and through my society, when in actuality, I just needed to look within. Come on, somebody. But I didn't do that. You can tell, 14, 15-year-old Jacoby this. One of the most traumatic experiences in growing up is believing that no matter what you do in this life and how you end, when you end, you're going to be sent to a place of misery. You're living with that belief day in and day out. You're living with that belief. And so you make this weird peace with despair. And that is one of the most and that is one of the most traumatic experiences and the downsides of growing up, in the Christian faith, gay, in the Bible Belt. You can't really escape that. I remember after this, and I started really kind of battling with it because it was like now at the forefront of my psyche. And I remember at the time I worked for McDonald's. I was a lot and lobby sweeper. And I remember out there on that lot and lobby sweeping up cups and fries, I had a lot of time to think. And so I remember one day I was sweeping up by the dumpster and I had this epiphanic moment of like, you're gay. It was like this voice from within. And I literally paused and I looked up, and it was a cloudy day. I think it may have started even to rain. Like, it was just so dramatic. It was just so like I remember I started bawling. I went behind the dumpster and I was bawling. Like, that was my first moment of admitting to myself that I was gay. I came out to myself first, and it wasn't the best reaction. Myself did not like myself after that, but it was something that I knew that I had to do. You see, like, I was very honest with myself. It took years to get there and to go down that path, but I'm somebody who's always very honest to myself. Like, I'd lie to you before I lie to me, okay? Protection, survival. When you're in a survival mind state, you kind of live your life that way. And so once I realized that I was gay, and I said it to myself, I just dealt with it. I had to sit with it. And like, I had to live with it. And I remember thinking, I don't fit in, right? I don't seem gay. I'm not this type of gay. I'm not that type of gay. I didn't really care to wear wigs and stuff like that. Although I do think it's totally normal to do that, right? Like I would definitely do drag one day. I would do it. I don't desire to be a woman, but I tapping into my feminine side was something that I did by myself. It was a tug and pull because self-expression is who we all are. Like if my older siblings can express themselves playing football, listening to Tupac, riding a slab, and that was his thing. He was good at self-expressing that because society gave him space to do so. Even though to some people that may be taboo, it was still accepted amongst his peers and amongst his circle. And for me, and a lot of other, kids who dealt with the dark side of their sexuality, we didn't get that. And we all want to be affirmed, even if it's by a small group. Affirmation is something that we all want. And if you don't have that, you got to figure out a way to maneuver around this thing. Otherwise, you can't stay in bed forever. But I had made my peace with being gay because to me, it didn't seem beneficial. It seemed like a hindrance, like a thorn, like a weight, like it seemed like a roadblock. It didn't seem like anything good. So for me, it was this malignant mole hump that was weighed on my back. And it wasn't until I fell in love for the first time with my straight best friend as a teenager when I realized that this was something more than just a physical thing. I had actually had emotions for another male. And I remember thinking, oh shit. Oh, okay. After I fell in love for the first time with my straight male friend on an emotional level, not like a sexual or not even like a physical level, although I thought, he was extremely beautiful. It wasn't about that. It was purely like, I want this human to be in my life for as long as they are. And I just love them romantically. And that was the first time that it felt good. That was the first time that it felt right. Even under the circumstance of unrequited love, like what I felt inside gave me a heartbeat that felt good. I honestly believe that falling in love with my straight male friend was the catalyst that pulled me through a lot of the dark times of dealing with this. And it also gave me the strength to come out to myself. Because mind you, I didn't care about what the outworld really thought outside of how I made them feel. I did not want to be gay. But when I found this love, even though it was unrequited, it gave my insides this electrical boost. And now looking back as an adult, I can see how that kind of played into who I am and where I am today. And when it came to God and when it came to the things of, my faith at the time, it was almost like a simultaneously confirmation of the love that he still felt for me, God. I just remember hearing like this still voice inside of me. I was driving home from work one day and I remember bawling. I remember hearing like this internal voice that was like, I knew you before you were even thought of. This is not surprising to me. And it was like this release that I had. And I would have several moments like that throughout my life. But that was one very significant one that kind of led me to where I was able to kind of reconcile my sexuality with my faith. Now, fast forward, I kept it to myself, right? I didn't tell anybody. I still hadn't told my friend who I was in love with. I still hadn't told my other friends. I hadn't told my family. I hadn't circled back to it. But I was never bringing any girls home. Like I wasn't dating really. And if I did, it'd be like at school. During high school, I remember just getting by. The locker room was never a problem for me. All of my friends were always straight, but I just began to get by. I had to live with me accepting it for me first before I could share that with the world, because I didn't know what to do with it, right? Once you accept it, it's like, okay, so what's next? So the very first person that I told after telling myself was my straight best friend. And I knew before telling him how he would feel. Our friendship was really much based around church and around the Christian life and stuff like that. And so I knew how he would meet me with it. he met me with, some Bible verses. He wasn't harsh, but it was also like, well, it's not right, but, I still love you, but it's not right because, Romans, says this. Because I knew that was going to be his reaction, although like it kind of stung a little bit, I was more relieved that I was able to say it out loud. Like he probably had no idea that I was just wanting to get used of saying it to somebody, right? To just try to be seen. Now, mind you, I am more masculine presenting, and I know that it's a privilege when it comes to the LGBT community, and I never took that lightly. I just used it to my advantage. Because at the same time, I wanted to be who I was. I didn't feel like being gay meant that I had to, start wearing crop tops and rainbow flags, and you'll probably never see a rainbow flag in my apartment. And it doesn't mean that I'm not proud of myself or not proud of, my queer family. It's just, I don't know, like you won't really, it's not really, I don't think it goes with many things, to be honest. Is the real reason. But, but when it's time for pride and stuff like that, I'll do the rainbow thing. Being gay or being homosexual is not a monolith. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to be super feminine. You don't have to be super masculine. You don't have to want to be a woman. You don't have to want to do drag. It's about being you. It's about gender loving the same gender. That's it. Everything else is a reflection of who you are and who you're meant to be. That's why you have athletes that are coming out. That's why you got people who are married, that are coming out. That's why you have all these different diasporas of the LGBT community, because the range is so big. But sometimes the outside world works so hard to put you in a box sometimes to say, well, you don't sound gay, you don't act gay, you don't seem gay. You're not. Are you sure? And I dealt with that a lot. I deal with that today as a 34-year-old man. 10 years later, I do. I'm much more okay with it now. But I remember feeling exhausted by the need to constantly prove that I was gay. All through college, I was in the closet. I was a leader of Christian organizations. I still hadn't made the disconnect from when, to believing that God really loved me and that God still cared for me. I didn't really believe it all the time, especially when you have people in the physical that just constantly remind you that, yeah, but after college, I just become more comfortable with who I was just as life went on. I knew that at the age of 19 that women weren't for me. I knew that I didn't want to be that man who got married and had kids and looked back at 40 years old and was like, what the hell did I do? I knew that I wasn't that person who wanted to be that lonely, older, queer man in the corner of a club. All I wanted to do was be me and to love and to allow myself to be loved. It took time to kind of really get there. But once I got there, it was like this flood of life that had opened up for me. So I came out to my friend and I was 16 years old. And after that, I didn't tell anybody for 6 years. And I equate coming out like telling my mother, like telling my family. I graduated from college with my degree in psychology, and I took a theater class that I wanted to pursue film and acting with, and I wanted to give LA a try. You see, there was a part of me that was always fearless, and there was a part of me that was always bound with fear. And it was almost like these two were at odds, but I knew enough that one day after college, I had made up my mind to move to Los Angeles. And I knew that before I moved to Los Angeles, I needed to tell my mother that I was gay. I knew that I could not move to Los Angeles in good faith and not tell my mother, because at this point she had stopped asking. She was like, when you bringing the girl home? Why you ain't bringing nobody home? I don't see, ma'am. And so I knew that I needed to tell her. And so the day was, I believe it was April 12th, 2012, or somewhere around there. And we were, I told her, I was like, Mama, I have something to say. I want to tell you something. And she knew. And she because her posture was like finally, because I went through years of depression. She had seen me sad for so long, and she had these moments of reaching out to me where I'm sure that she probably knew what it was about, but she was never going to pressure me or put that on me. She wanted me to live for myself. And she knew that I had to kind of make my dealings with, even though she was, even though she felt some type of way and was like, why didn't you tell me earlier? She felt hurt. But at the same time, I had to tell her that it wasn't about you, Mom. It was about me. And most of the time, if not all the time, it's about the individual. But I called her into the living room and I was like, Mama, I want to tell you something. And my confidence was so high. And then at one point, my confidence started to kind of drop because the moment was coming. And she was just sitting there looking at me. She was sitting at the desk of the computer, and I was sitting on the love seat. And I just remember, like, I dropped my head, and she was saying, like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I was stuttering. I would get to I'm and I would pause, and she would wait for me. She knew what I was doing, but she made space for me to do it because it was hard, because I knew that my mom, although, you know, she loved us very much, as a parent, you kind of have this ideal of what your child's life is going to look like. And when you're a parent who loves your child, 10 out of 10 times that life is going to kind of look like a way that's going to keep them safe and protected, right? Being gay in Texas, or being gay in period, isn't really, you know, screaming that my child's going to be good or that the world is going to receive my child good. Although I saw her, you know, raise my older sibling, you know, and their queer issues, I knew that she would accept me. It wasn't a factor in me not telling her. It was all me. I did not want to be gay at the time. And so she waited for me on that day. And as I had my head down and my knees was shaking, she just looked at me and she was like, just say it. Just say the words. And it was like her saying that just kind of released like this pressure off of me. And I just looked up to her with my eyes full of tears. And I said, I'm gay. And she was like, duh. No, I'm just kidding. She was like, I know. She said, I know. I know. And we hugged and we embraced, and I bawled my eyes out again, and she cried. I believe she cried. But she was there mostly for me, you know what I mean? Like she already knew it was coming. She already knew what time it was. She just wanted me to feel safe enough to say it. And so her making that space was me just stepping out, right? And then from there, you know, I started coming out to friends here and there. I moved to LA 6 months later. Before that, I came out to a few of my closest friends. And then during my home visits from LA, I would pick, you know, I would have like lunch dates or coffee dates with certain friends and tell them that, you know, and come out. And some received it well, some knew, some were blown away, some were confused, some didn't care, you know. So I kind of got a mix, you know, review from a lot of people, but mostly it was love. I will say that most of my friends that I came out to one-on-one, it was love. And, you know, I had been going and dealing with this for so long that it wasn't about any negativity. If there were any negativity that would come my way, it was just me accepting it and be like, damn. And then like probably moving on with life. Some I did that with, some I did not do that with. And honestly, nothing's really changed. Honestly, coming out, it was an internal thing for me. You know, I had to come out to me first before I came out to anybody else. And I could say that from there, I was able to kind of not be in the shadows of the gay clubs. And I was able to kind of go out and kind of do my thing and kind of experiment. And, you know, although I may have done a little bit too much experimenting, but I survived. You know, and I figured out things that I liked, what I didn't like, who I was in those aspects. Relationship-wise, I haven't had very many after college. None. But that's okay. Like, I've been okay with that. Coming out is not about being in a relationship. It's not about finding love outside of you. It's about opening yourself up to these things. And I've been open up to it. Very guarded and very, you know, but at the same time, being very open to these experiences and being very open to the perspective of love. I felt like for years after that, I had to constantly come out. I had to constantly, you know, living in LA or living, you know, going back and forth. I felt like at some point in time that I had to constantly come out because it was like, if I haven't seen you in a while, it was like, oh, you're gay? Okay, well. Really? When most of the time people can get into a relationship, post it on Facebook and be done with it, I didn't have that journey. That wasn't for me. I didn't have that, you know? And again, like, I probably wouldn't because why are you in my business? I don't know. I'm a very private person and that'll never change. And that is secluded from my sexuality, but also tied into it the same way. I'm a very private person. I know that I'm seen even to this day, I'm probably seen as like a mystery to a lot of people. And you have to have tough skin because this world will tell you who you are if you don't tell them or show them who you are. So you have to be okay, with what that looks like. And I'm somebody, I don't really give a damn. I don't care. It's not gonna make me change to be anything different. I realized that there was no kind of big grand awakening about my sexuality that I was waiting for, that it would make my life better or worse. It was just me being like, what's up? Okay, so this is who I am now. Let's walk into that. Relationships are hard, but the most important relationship is with yourself. And coming out for me was about me. Again, I want to circle back and say that I hope that we can kind of get to a place to where like kids today don't have to come out, that they can just start off out the womb being who they are and being cultivated. See, my mom taught us to protect ourselves. She wasn't like go out there and, tell the world, but she was like, hey, if you don't want to tell nobody, you ain't got to tell nobody. If you want to tell everybody, you can tell everybody. Just know that like you're loved. This world may not love you, but I want you to stay protected. It was that kind of support, you know what I mean? And because of who I am, I didn't want to have to feel like I was doing the most by trying to show the world that I was gay. I just wanted to be me. And once I sat into that, it was very easy for me to go through the rest of my early adulthood. And I've gotten my heart broken. I've been on both sides of unrequited love more times than I care to remember or admit. But it all made me who I am. Being gay wasn't like this big turning point in my life. It was just me walking into the shoes that was given to me as I got here. 10-year reflection of me coming out, I could say that my perspective is that life is what you make it. There wasn't any special doors that opened up for me because I was gay. There wasn't any doors that were necessarily closed for me to my knowledge because I was gay. Again, I hope that we get to a place to where we take out the importance of the need to come out. I hope that we get to a spot, and I feel like we're getting there. And we also take coming out as a safety net because someone's truth in a lot of places of this world could still mean life or death. And a lot of times, I wish that I would have switched from survival mode to just living mode a lot sooner. That's one 10-year reflection. I wish that I would have learned to live more boldly in my earlier 20s after coming out because that's who I really am as well. Like, I'm not anyone to be shy or to recant. I'm not a meek person, I'm calm, I'm grounded, but I'm a very present, aura, energy-given person. And so I wish I would have probably tapped into that sooner. Beware of the labels that we put on people in general. We live in a world where we gotta label every damn thing, and it's so exhausting, especially when the labels don't belong or they don't fit on you as a person, and you gotta try to figure out a way to make yourself with these labels. Like, if we can get to a place where we don't have to put people in boxes and just let them be and not even have to worry about, I never saw him date nobody. And like, it's not your business, make space for people. People don't owe you the trust that you are demanding. You got to earn that. Some people are a little bit more bewildered and more freeing with their trust and their openness. And that's a good thing. But if you are somebody who needs to stay protected or who knows that who you are is different on multiple levels outside of your sexuality, protecting yourself is a form of survival mode that I wish you freedom from. I do. I wish you freedom from that survival mode. Loyalty and authenticity is what I look for in any relationship now. In any relationship. If you're an authentic asshole, I'd rather you be that than a fake angel. Hello, somebody. Let me choose, and I'll let you choose. Out of the 3 heavy mountains of my life, sexuality was probably the lowest of that mountain. So I can stand here as a confident man who is very, very much, embraced by his masculinity and his femininity, and tell you that you can do the same. For the boys out there who feel like they don't fit in anywhere, like you're not gay enough, but you're not straight enough, just know that I was with you the whole time. We were with each other the whole time, and you don't have to to pick a side. You can be who you are. You can walk into your masculinity and your femininity, because that's who you are. We are all aspects of both. And it's okay to be that of both. It's okay. A few years ago, I had a friend of mine who runs a campaign called Be Free. His name is Brian Terada. Shout out to Brian. He asked me to write my story down and share it with the world. And that story is minus the embarrassing coming out part of myself with my family, but it has everything else in there. And so I wrote it at a time where, you know, I was really kind of hurt by love and really kind of hurt by people. And I want to end this video with an insert from the ending of that article that he had me write. I'm going to link it down below. Feel free to read the whole thing and let me know what you think. Although I've been out for about 6 years now, I do still at times feel as though I am coming out almost on a daily basis. And it does get exhausting. It's something I'm more than willing to walk out. You see, my fears changed. I fear not living my truth. I fear not sharing who I am so that someone can simply know they aren't alone. I fear not allowing myself to fall in true love with the guy of my dreams, which in my heart, I believe is tailored out there specifically for me. Jason Momoa, or somebody on an island in the Caribbean or the Tonga Islands. I fear that I won't be all that God has called me to be. Today is hard because I still doubt in many ways. Can I do this? Is God really there for me? I'm still stuck on past heartbreak, but I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of how far I've come. We're all not that different. What Be Free is doing is something that brings joy to my heart, and the message behind it is one that will last for many, many years to come. This whole telling my story and truth is new to me. I'm in foreign land, but my heart has led me here for a while now, and I'm inspired to walk this out and to see where it takes me. I'll close with this. We all have the yearning and desire to be free, truly free from whatever keeps us in bondage. The key to our, as well as our brothers and sisters' shackles lie in each other's hearts, stories, experiences, and willingness to loose one another. We can never reach our full potential of who we are supposed to be until we are our true, unapologetic, authentic selves. That's what I strive for, to be that Jacoby, to love that Jacoby, and introduce that Jacoby to the world. Thank you, Brian, and Be Free from the bottom of my heart for using your keys to unlock the shackled and the bondage of your brothers and sisters. I will have freedom. I will choose freedom. I am free. Boom. I wrote that now about 5 years ago, and those words still reign deep in my heart, and that is the catalyst of why I'm telling my story today for YouTube to see. So that's pretty much it. That, you know, not much has changed in 10 years. Reflection is still there. We're still out here doing the best that we can, loving how hard as we can, and just walking life day to day. Sexuality doesn't have to define you, neither does anything else. It's a package experience, and tapping into it all is where your magic lies. And so if you're struggling out there with your sexuality, if you're someone who's young and watching this, I will say take your time, don't rush anything, focus on you and worry about loving you. And once you love you, the rest will be a peace. If any hate or disrespect were to come your way for being who you are, because you love yourself first, it's not gonna matter. It's not gonna hurt as much. You'll be able to cut off, relationships, friendships. You'll be able to make and discern who you want to be. You'll be able to decide the spaces that you want to walk in and the spaces that you want to stay from. Once you decide who you don't want to be, it'll make who you want to be more illuminated. And go with that and be happy with who you are. Love yourself. Embrace your feminine and your if you're more feminine, embrace that. If you're more masculine, embrace that. If you're both, guess what you got to do? So with all the love in my heart, I want to thank you guys for being here with me. Happy National Coming Out Day to all my fellow brothers and sisters of the LGBTQIA. Forgive me if I'm missing some letters. Don't do me. Don't do me. I love you guys very much. Go out there and make space for people just to be them, just to be who they are. And if you don't want to share the space with them, that's cool. But just make space, because the space will be made for you. And if you don't find anybody that makes space for you, make your own space and invite the ones who you want and kick out the ones you don't. Okay? I love you guys. You guys have a wonderful rest of the day. Until we see each other again, be sure to like, comment. If you're somebody who went out, I would love to hear some of your stories down below in the comments, or what was the catalyst for you coming out. Let me know in the comments below. Be easy, be good to one another, be good to yourself. Okay, be good to yourself. All right. Until next time, family. Much love. We out here. We out here.